Okay, so I am going to be extending this wooden floor that I created, and I create my floors to be not permanent because you never know how it'll turn out. You never know if you want to change things in the future, or if you ever parted ways with your dollhouse or needed to update things in 25 years because this one's built to last. Anyways, not permanent. So the way that I do that is I build the floor on chipboard, which you can just get at Hobby Lobby. A huge slice bigger than this is $150. And I had originally thought that I was going to make a tile flooring for the kitchen, but I don't really like it. It's just too dull, and I think wood will look better. And I also thought my stairs were gonna go over here, but I'm changing it up to have them go over here, which is frustrating because now I have to deal with that whole, that's another video. So anyways, the first thing I'll do is start making the pattern for the floor, or maybe that's not the right word, but I had already cut this out another time, so this will be for the dining room, and I'm just confirming that it fits. That looks good. And then I'm gonna combine it with my messy things here. So I'm just gonna put this in here, mark here and cut that off, and then tape that to this one. And then I'm gonna cut here as well. Just mark it with the marker underneath so I can see how far it comes out. And basically, piece by piece, make it fit this shape that I have here. So here's a little progress, and I'm just a little bit over here. And I'm not too concerned about it being exact because there's gonna be cabinets here. But I do want it to fit in here. So anyways. Oh, and also there's gonna be a wall on this line. So that should be covered, and then there's gonna be crown molding as well. Now that I tested trying to take this whole flap and put it in, I realized it just wasn't gonna work. It works when it's like this because it's bendy still, and it is a little bit bendy even once the wood is on. Like, it doesn't completely straighten out, but I'm just gonna do them separately, and I'm going to aim to have them kind of fit together like a puzzle piece. When I made this side, I sawed off the edges because I wasn't expecting to connect them with anything, and this time I won't do that for that connection point over here. So I have some of my pieces here. These are laser cut birchwood from the library makerspace. I was able to go there and have these laser printed for free, or laser cut rather. And I'm using ones that I was trying not to use because you can't really see here, but it's not with the grain of the wood. So the grain of the wood is going up and down instead of the long way. And I did use some of those here too, but I would recommend, if you do try to do this yourself, to have it printed or cut with the grain of the wood going the long way or the opposite way. It doesn't really matter. The point though is that the color kind of matches up depending on the grain, and like you get this really interesting effect. But that being said, I did put other ones in here and you can like hardly tell. It's just a little nitpicky. But if you are doing it, just think about it first. And then the way I would start is just starting at a corner and then you put one down, and then you, oops, sorry. Then you match it up, and then you put one down, and then you match it up, and so on and so forth. And what you want to avoid, you know, you made a mistake if you have two that are the same, unless you're doing 2 by 2, but I'm just doing one for each way. So 1 and 1, and then eventually and I'm just showing the pattern first, and then I'll glue it after. Eventually you start to go in the opposite direction. So these start to go this way, and then I'll have to cut them to go that way. So let's actually just look here. So I have one here, one here, one here, one here. And then these come in here again into those little spaces. Sorry, I actually don't know if this is clear at all, but once you do it, it's pretty self-explanatory. So now you can see I created another little space there, and that's where the next one goes, in that direction. And then there's space here, here, and now there's space again. Whoops. Okay, anyways. So I'll have some more video of me actually doing it. I have to kind of figure out how I want to exactly do it, since I'm backtracking here and kind of aligning it with this somewhat. And what I will end up using is wood glue. So it's wood, use wood glue, and put it on. Okay, so here you can see I made a lot of progress, and I have, since doing this and recording this video, found a much better solution for flooring, to be honest. But this is kind of the best parquet I was able to produce. I saw some of the pre-made ones on Etsy and they just didn't look real enough for me. They looked like just a sheet of wood that was then engraved to have a parquet kind of pattern, and I just didn't like that. So anyways, this is the next step. Once that's all done, I wait for it to dry, and then I put wood filler in all of the cracks. And I think for real flooring there's some other kind of mixture used, but I just use wood filler, and I just smear it all in. And once it's all smeared in, I go ahead and scrape off the excess. And after it dries, so here it's still wet, or yes, and then once I get off all the excess when it's still wet, I let it dry so that I can go over it and start sanding. Okay, so before sanding, I am using my Dremel to saw off the side pieces that are too big. And I put this little important safety note here because this is not advice, and this is probably not the safest way to use this tool. And I have done this twice now. I honestly just don't have a better tool. That's why I'm using that. Because it's actually extremely difficult to cut through. Those pieces are super strong, despite not being more than a 1/4 inch thick. So that was just the tool that I had to use to get through them. And I'm using a vacuum cleaner to make sure that most of the dust is sucked up, and I'm also wearing a mask and glasses because of the dust and because of little pieces flying. So obviously this isn't like probably any woodworker would be like, what are you doing? But this is what I had to do. And I'm leaving that edge over there because that's going to be connecting with the other piece that I made for the little side room, what's going to be the dining room. So now I'm making sure that those two pieces that I had to put in separately are going to match up. And I had to at least start the pattern while it was in so I could get the exact right angles and make sure that it matches with the piece that I already did. Okay, so then I went ahead and sanded everything once I had the pattern right, once I knew it fit, and all of that is dry now. And I was using a hand sander, which is what I used for the living room, but I must have applied more to this one maybe this time because it was taking forever to get it all even and also to get rid of all of that not wood glue, wood paste, the filler, wood filler. And so once it was all sanded, I am using this double-sided tape, which I forget what it's called, but it's basically used for like sticking rugs down or something. It's supposed to be very strong, and but it's still pretty easy to lift up if you're like actively trying to lift up your floor. So that way the floor stays in place, but it's not permanent. And I have to say, I'm so glad that I had this idea of using chipboard from the very beginning, starting with this dollhouse, because oh boy, as you'll see, I made some big mistakes with this flooring here, and it would have been so terrible if I had directly wood glued all of those wood pieces to the wood base of the dollhouse. I don't know what I would have done. I don't know how you get rid of that or like get it off. So mistakes were made, as you'll see, but I was able to rectify them because I didn't make it permanent. So here I'm just finally checking the fit. And then since there were little gaps between, I ended up putting some more plastic wood. That's what it's called. Plastic wood between to kind of help it blend in and look like it's all one floor. And then I'm just weighing it down so that it doesn't accidentally warp and create some little lumps. So I guess I didn't get footage of this, but I did borrow my friend's electric sander for another sanding, and or maybe I did that after, but anyways, now I'm going in with the stain. This is the same stain that I used for the other side that you see on the left side, and for some reason it came out quite a bit darker, and I really like the left side, so I was a little bit disappointed. Okay, so now I'm wiping it off, and you can just see it's a little darker. I was kind of immediately not too happy with it because a lot of the pieces look, there's just like a lot of range, I guess, but looking back at it now, it's not that bad. But still, it just wasn't actually the color I was going for. Okay, so I didn't record this part, but this is now the mistake. I used a glossy spray sealer, like a glossy sealer, which I had used on the other side, and I like the way that it turned out. Like, I feel like it looks so different, but anyways, I put it on, and it was super blotchy, and oh my god, I'm so mad at myself looking at how much I'm putting on. But it was super blotchy, and so I was like, okay, well, let me try one more coat to make it less blotchy. Oh god. And then what ended up happening was it looks so shiny, and then it just looked like there were puddles of water. Okay, so fast track to me rethinking everything.
Oh
Oops. I sanded it all down. I sanded off with an electric sander. I sanded off the spray finish. I sanded off the stain. And I was like, I have to redo this because I just hate the way it looks. At this point, I've spent so much time on it. And my biggest regret is that I didn't use a sealer finish that was actually meant for wood, for sealing and finishing wood. But again, to be fair, I had used that spray on the other side and it turned out great. I think what happened is that some of the wood was uneven to begin with, and so it created that blotchiness. And then secondarily, for the other side, I had sprayed it outside, but for this one I couldn't because I had to lay it in. And so anyways, that led to me spraying at a much closer distance, and I think that made it extra shiny and different than the other side. So here's where the next issue came in. I now had several pieces of wood that weren't taking stain anymore. So you can see some of them were just totally white, and it must be because I reached a layer of the wood that had like glue in it, or I actually don't know, but at this point it felt like it was just totally ruined. And I had spent so much time. So, of course, due to the sunk cost fallacy, I sanded it again and had to give it one more try, and it didn't do anything. It still wasn't taking the stain in so many spots, and it just wasn't looking good. And the problem is, you can't really keep going if it's not what you want, because then I have to build the wall on it, which is going to be glued down, and then I'm doing the wallpaper and the trim, and it's like some foundational things you just have to get right. So, to make a long story short, I ended up completely redoing it, starting from scratch, and this is the result with the steps completed correctly this time. It's still a bit darker than what I hoped for, but I'm happy with it.